Did you see what happened there? Did you pick up on it? That's right. Now it plays its own intro. So when I press the intro button, then there's another intro. So you have a double intro. That is not the way you want to start the show. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, collectors of all ages, welcome to AussieVerse at this special time. Why is it a special time? Well, that's because we have, for the very first time, all the way from the States, stepping his toes into the AussieVerse, it is Ray Jamison, otherwise known as DM Ray. We will find out what DM is later. Ladies and gentlemen, how are you going? I'm so excited you're here, brother.
I'm digging the energy, man. I am a big fan of pragmatic optimism, not excessive over the top optimism, but one of the things about getting people to understand where you're coming from with complete sincerity and honesty is when you actually people know when you're being truthful usually. So if you're believing in what you're saying, people buy in right away. I'm a big fan of that. So yes, I'm picking up what you're putting down, as they say around here.
That is, I like hearing that. That's really, really cool. Let's get straight into it, man, because you reached out to us, and we were very, very appreciative of that. We do say on most of our shows, anybody that wants to come onto AussieVerse, feel free. It's great to see somebody actually do it every now and then. So thank you very much.
Right on, man. Happy to be here.
Now, so we are live on Insta. We are live on everywhere else except Twitter, because I don't have that. Sharif, do you have Twitter?
X? I do. Not active, but yeah.
I like calling it Twixter. It's Twitter with an X.
Twixter. So the title of the video is, what is the Madcaps? Ray, please, sir, tell the world about this glorious book.
Okay, so the Madcaps is a 3-issue miniseries, medieval fantasy themed. The whole thing takes place over one night. You can see the 4 people there on the lovely PDF, which I've shared with you. The whole premise is about 4 friends meeting up at their childhood hometown, and before they can actually really catch up and converse, they're interrupted by this outbreak of undead. Now, they're able to help the guards and stave off the undead, but one of them concludes that it has something to do with a local drug problem. So it's almost like an adult version of Scooby-Doo in a medieval setting, minus the dog. That's the complete, concise package of the entire thing. The reason I chose Madcap for the word, or the Madcaps in this case, Madcap by definition, it basically means eccentric or unique or outside of the norm. And all 4 of these individuals, none of them are human, and they're in a predominantly human town, so they kind of stand out a little bit.
I'm not going to show too much of this because I want people to...
Go ahead.
Yeah, one of the few things that I kind of picked up a little bit later on, especially with Dunnan. I didn't what was that? I didn't catch the shape of his ears only until the next few panels later on. I said, oh, okay, so he's not part of that. Well, he might be part of that world, but not of the same community.
He's definitely outside of the norm in the surroundings. So Dunnan is actually at the very back end of the digital copy I've sent you. I've got bios of each one. Dunnan is actually half dwarf and half gnome. So he's a little bit shorter than a dwarf, and he doesn't have a beard, but he's definitely taller than a gnome. He's something that's very unique about him, aside from his obvious appearance, is he actually has some type of magical influence over metals. Hi, Captain Sorrow. Metals and crystalline structures like gems and glass and other things. What he gathers is his mother, being a gnome, has influence on nature, and he thinks, due to a mix of the bloodlines, he somehow has inherited this type of ability. He's never come across anything like this before or heard about it or anything like that. So he's just kind of figuring out who he is. He draws from both bloodlines, but he has a hard time fitting in with either culture. So he's the kind of guy that would establish a bond just as deeply with a friend as he would with a family member.
Wow.
Oh,
Okay.
that's
Cool.
that's just one character, and really interesting.
That is one cool thing about Dunnan in regards to physical. I mean, he's under 4 feet in height. One of his best contraptions he's ever done is that telescope over his shoulder. He's rigged it so it can blast raw magic out of it, kind of like a potato cannon, if you will, except it doesn't shoot potatoes. It shoots just raw, unrefined arcana in some type of force.
When he rocked up to Ivywood, I saw that it was on the left side.
Yes.
And when he's got his shield on the left, and I was like, oh, that's an odd place to put a club on the left where you have to reach that way. And then once the craziness starts and you went down that way and go, boosh, yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, one of the things, this comic is actually based off of the first homebrew campaign I ever ran for D&D over 10 years ago. So all of the lore and everything. My goal for this story was to make you feel like you were dropped in the middle of it, as if the world existed beforehand. Much like you said, why would that telescope be there? Well, you don't really know until you get to know the characters. And I wanted to make sure that it felt like the world existed after the fact as well. So little things like that. Another example would be Madcaps. You get the impression right away based off of what he's saying. He doesn't want to be at the city, but you don't have a full grasp as to why. One thing I really dislike in writing, I consider it lazy writing, is when two people talk to each other about things they already know about each other, and it's obvious the only reason they're talking to each other is so the reader can understand something about them. So I kind of leaned the other way and just did the opposite and had readers thinking, well, I want to know more about that, but I've only been given tidbits. Am I missing out on something here? I lean towards that just to do something a little different.
That is an interesting take. I like that. I do like that because you are right. It's like, it's one of those things that, like, if you choose to, as a writer, put in there to help the reader, but it is a little odd. Like, why are they talking about this right now? They should
like,
know
how many
this.
times have you seen somebody at the start of a movie or a story, brand new characters, they're not established yet? One says, how are you doing today, brother? Like, that is not a common thing that is said to each other, but the reader now knows they are siblings, you know?
And seeing how you mentioned earlier that this, sorry, well, yeah.
No, go for it, brother.
That this is going to be a 3-issue mini. Will there, for the subsequent issues, is there going to be a flashback on how the characters established that friendship?
No. And the reason for that is, I think I already said all 3 issues take place in one night. The story is focused on a byproduct in their lives. So early in this issue, you hear about Dunnan and Madcaps coming into the city and talking about a potential job or some type of employment. This issue never gets into that. The story is not about their main goals in life. It's about this one distraction about this drug problem.
And it's 3 issues? You said?
Yes, three issues total, yes.
Okay. When did the first one come out?
First one launched April 30th. That passed already, 2024. This second issue won't be launched until in the new year. I mean, it's an indie comic, so there's always going to be bottlenecks, be it financial or if there's specific talent I want. Well, I'm not top in the priority list. So I'm a big fan of taking my time and making sure I've delivered something which I feel is worthy of the industry. The first issue, it took 2 years to get to the point of launching on Kickstarter. And the main reason for that, there's my pre-launch for issue 2 for anybody watching. If you could follow that, that would be really awesome. You'll help me with the algorithm and other things. It is very fresh. We just got that link going. But that first issue, it was 2 years to get up to that point. And one of the main things was I wanted to make sure I had something that, since this is my first time writing a comic, the fans decide, the readers decide whether or not I'm any decent of writing a story. So I can't control that. What I can control, though, is who is attached to the project. So I wanted to surround myself by relevant talent, which I felt was going to add to the story. I know a lot of comic books that are art heavy or style heavy or story heavy, and I didn't want to be heavy on anything. If the talent I felt reflected the story well, I wanted that talent.
And how was the response for issue 1?
Issue 1, lots of questions. Some of them you've already asked. Other ones are, where are they going with this? So because this issue has already been released to the public, I'm okay talking a little bit deeper into the pages. But by the end of it, after being able to intercept a drug transport, they're obviously going to be talking to the people that were riding the wagon. So the questions are, where could they go with this? And unfortunately, all I can say is you're going to have to wait. It's very, like, this is my first time. It is torturous to not be able to just talk about the whole story. Like, I really thoroughly enjoy it. When I originally had this story, when we played it out in D&D over a decade ago, the only thing that's really different is I took the players' characters out and I injected new characters in. I based the characters off of the players that were playing the game. So it was really nice to set out this story and then have placed these individuals. It was like watching, if you pour water and you see certain ramps and different buckets and hoses, judging by how gravity works and other variables, you can say the water will end up here. And that's how I felt with the story. Here's all these variables, here are these characters, and the story kind of just funneled into a spot, and it felt very natural to write it out.
When the third issue comes out, are you thinking about possibly doing a collected edition?
It's crossed my mind. It's on the table. We'll put it that way. I haven't finalized. I'm just taking it one issue at a time because this is all new to me. So one thing, I made sure it was a limited story. And the main reason for that is I'm not arrogant enough to say this is going to be monthly ongoing and it's going to be the best thing ever because this is my first time. Right. So, we'll just take it one issue at a time. When issue 3 is done and I have a good rapport, I'm more established than completely new. I have a little bit of a network. I'll consider it then once I get that third issue out to the wild, as they say.
Yeah, man, that's fair enough.
So with that third issue in the pipeline, have you finished mapping out the whole story as to where and how it will end?
Oh yes. I had the whole thing done before I started issue 1, before the sequential started or any of the inks. The first issue is kind of a build up. You need reasons why the characters are together, which I think I established decently. Like, they're all getting back together, basically coordinated by Dunnan. In the trailer, he's referred to as a social facilitator, of course. But by the middle one, this second issue that's coming out, at one point, they actually have a discussion amongst themselves. Are we biting off more than we can chew here? Like, should we just pass this over to the local guards? Like, this is, we're not fighters. Even the big guy Madcaps, his armor, that's all ceremonial. He doesn't know too much about his kind. All he knows is he's a descendant of a giant kaiju-like electric eel, known as the Great Stormworm. So you saw he could like exhale lightning. It's more like vomiting because he stores it in his gizzard, and it's a limited amount, just like any poisonous. You guys are in Australia. You got your share of poisonous animals there. They can run out and they have to replenish it, of course. And Madcaps is the same way. But Madcaps, anyways, all of that armor and that sword, they're ceremonial. The biggest the most impressive thing off of him is actually his brain. He's very intelligent. You get a little bit of seeing how he can cast spells when he catches the one zombie by the throat and sets his head on fire, which is one of my favorite scenes in the comic. But that would be most people look at him because of his build, because of what he's wearing. This is obviously some type of mercenary or adventurer, but in reality, he just wants to be left alone to his studies. And the armor is just something. Cliff on comics. Cliff is American. I saw him on one of your other podcasts. I took your place, but I'm a little bit north. I'm just north of the American border. I'm just inside Winnipeg, Canada there. But
Australia is trying to steal Cliff.
What's that?
Australia is trying to steal Cliff and make him our own. It's a long process.
I've heard that if Australia was comparable to the States, then Canada would be comparable to New Zealand. That's what I've told. I don't know if that's true, but with that said, if Madrakis is the most closest considered to some type of capable half Canadian, nice, I like it. But all four, they're not natural fighters. They're not people that look for, we're gonna dig up this vault and tear this mummy to shreds. And what's that magic? We'll shrug it off and have some ale later. That's not these type of people. In fact, I really heavily wanted to stress that they're not the most mightiest of individuals in their realm. I wanted to make sure that there was actually some type of gravity to their actions, and stakes are actually there and serious repercussions. That first zombie outbreak, right at within 6 pages of the book, 3 of them almost get killed, and they're saved by a recovering wave of guards. I mean, they have some cool, unique features to them, but with that said, they're not going to be Superman, go and save everybody kind of thing. That's not what the book is about. It's just about friends and how they react when they're around each other. I'm a father of 3. If I was out in public and something similar were to hypothetically happen, in my mind, okay, I need to get my household safe. Let's get out of here. If I was with my friends, maybe I would act a little bit different. Okay, well, maybe we can help some people here and we can see what's going on. I'm not so much worried about my own personal safety, where if I got little ones around me, well, if I'm gone, I can't look after them kind of thing.
So what's your inspiration for making this? I mean, I can sort of guess what your answer is because you've sort of touched on it already, but enlighten me in case I'm wrong.
Okay, so to shorten a long story, I've loved comics since I was before I can remember. I have a brother who's 5 years older than me. He's a Gen Xer, born in the late 70s, and he loved that time when cartoons, comic books, and toys decided to join forces and make a lot of parents' wallets hurt, as the kids loved everything about, you want Spider-Man? Here's the toys. Watch the cartoon. Read the comics. Buy the lunch pail. And I loved everything about the era. When I was in the 90s in elementary school, I took an after-hours course about making comic books. And it was a passion of mine, and I'm an artist at heart, but it was never something I could pursue and make a living off of. And I really liked taking that course because I learned all about pencils, inks, lettering, coloring, sequentials, and so forth and so on. Eventually, I moved across country and I couldn't see my friends anymore. And this is in my early mid-20s. And eventually I said, we need excuses to hang out. Why don't we play some D&D? I've never played it before. Most of us did not. And I ended up being the dungeon master. DM Ray, DM just means dungeon master. And
I was going to test Sharif on that, lady. You ruined it.
Hi, Tate. So eventually, we just made this really cool world. Now, you guys ever played tabletop RPG before?
I've played D&D once with a mate that I was working with at the time, and you know how life goes. You lose contact with friends that you work with, and it's a shame because I kind of dug it, man. I wish the guy lived closer. And yeah, if I had a network of friends that I could physically see, it'd be something that I'd be into. Yeah. What about you, Sharif?
I was only a spectator, but even then I can see it's such a big world that I feel too overwhelmed to just step into it. So I just
it's funny you mention that, Sharif. One of the coolest things about tabletop RPGs, I'm sure both of you have played a video game at least once in your life. If I'm some type of spy in a video game and I hide around a corner, let's say I wanted to rip a pipe off a wall to use it as a weapon, if it's not programmed in the game, I can't pull that pipe out of the wall. In D&D, you can do whatever you want. So what's that? There's a light bulb. I want to break all the light bulbs and take the light out of the room. It's easier to hide in the dark. I want to take all those glass shards and put them across the threshold of the only way in to kind of act like an early alarm system or a doorbell. Hi, Christina. In D&D, assuming there's light bulbs in the world that you're playing in, you can definitely do that. And the coolest thing about it is if you have a good dungeon master, not only will they give you those options, they will actually allow you to shine using those options. They'll actually play things up to your strengths. And when you understand that, the overwhelming amount of options, as you described, suddenly, well, I don't care about those because I want to do this. And that is one of the best parts about combining imaginations like that. Hi, Aaron.
Yeah, I think being a dungeon master would be a lot of fun. You could, you've got an imagination. I think that's all you need, and it would be great. I don't know how I missed that because it sounds like something that I would have loved to have done in my social life.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Then the only reference that I have with D&D would fall back on Big Bang Theory, where Howard would be the dungeon master and he'll do all these impressions.
The Christopher Walken dragon. That's my favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah. And once we started playing, when I started as a dungeon master, usually it's smart to like make things from modules that D&D can provide. You can buy them. I decided to just make it from scratch. They call it homebrew. So the lore, the cities, all the characters, that was all under my own creation. And that was one of the most beneficial things for this comic book, which I'm not a cruel dungeon master. If you roll a 1, I don't conjure the worst possible result for you. Oh, man. I'm not cruel, but 1s are always great for comedy. So I always allow for something good there. I'm not mean about it, but I will make sure that even the person that rolled the 1, if they're not happy, they'll at least laugh as they scowl. Definitely. But as we played, we fleshed out this history and the story of this world that already existed. And it was a lot of fun to just make all of that cool stuff. Now, as I got older and looking back, I wanted to, I had this urge, you know what? I want to take a stab at making a comic out of this because I honestly think there's some good material to work with. I feel it is unique enough that it isn't just, I can't really compare it to anything. And I feel that was very important. I didn't want to be like, well, it's like Superman, but everybody has tentacles for eyes or something like that. It's not like one thing with a little bit of a change. It's just kind of its own thing. They're not superstars for fighters. It's how would these people just survive in a world where, yeah, there's stronger and greater things out there.
I like that. One of the things that drew me to it, which is really weird for me, because if you've seen any of the shows before, I know Sharif knows I'm not really a guy that pays attention to art. I just read the story. You know what I mean? Nothing. I'm not a visual sort of guy like that with comics, but I really dug the art in Madcaps, especially the coloring. It's really weird. I've read a lot of comics, and that is something that normally doesn't stand out to me and make me pay attention to it. But when you gave me that PDF or the link and I downloaded it, after going past the cover, the first thing that I paid attention to was the vibrancy of the colors. Is that a particular artist that you chose on purpose for that, or was
Yes.
it just the best artist that you could get? Okay, so who's that?
For colorist, his name is Dan Kemp, and this man has colored over 100 issues of Spawn. So I remember I was saying I want good talent. If it's medieval fantasy, you want bright colors, especially if it's a red cape or some type of the interrogation that I shared with you is a couple of the panels put together. That big reveal off, you got bright eyes and dark blue skin. I really wanted it to pop. So Dan Kemp, basically he did 50 to 150 approximately for all the issues in Spawn. And the man, when it comes to intelligence and coloring, this guy oozes of said intelligence. He definitely understands how light interacts with depth and what to color to make what stand out. Even little things like at one point when Sarlacc and Dunnan are talking to each other, and this is after they help stave off the undead outbreak, they're looking at some of the bodies. He did stuff like Sarlacc's face is all in the darkness and shadow, and Dunnan behind is illuminated. And it was just a very smart place. Although it's very simple to describe, you can see extra depth just because of that alone. So I also had, you know what? I didn't think I can share this with you. I have some variant covers. I will show you another example of Dan Kemp coloring. Have you guys ever read the second volume of Ghost Rider where Dan Ketch takes over and Johnny Blaze ends up trying to hunt him down? It started in 1990. Some of it. So that first year, that was illustrated by Harvey Salteras. I actually had him. Oh, that's issue 1's description. That has to do with what's it called? Yeah, that's just the premise, which we're talking about. But yeah, you can read that on there. That's a good one. Let me share here. I just found it. Share screen. Share window. There it is. This was also colored by Dan Kemp. So when you really think about this, some minion from the underworld, aka Ghost Rider, somebody drew that, and then I had somebody color another minion from an underworld, aka Spawn, and I was actually able to combine their talents. This has never happened before. So this is one of the variant covers for issue 1. And so Sarlacc the dwarf. Can you guys see it?
Cool.
Yeah. There we go. Yeah. Originally, when it was just really cool, I just asked these people, all of this talent, I just asked, and I mean, don't get me wrong, some people said no, but then there's people who said yes. And when Harv drew this, I originally suggested something like, I wanted him to be calm despite a bunch of chaos going on. So if you guys play rugby, but in the North American rugby, as I like to call it, because football is a name that's already taken at the international level, you have the quarterback and he doesn't throw until it's the perfect throw. And that could be like literally seconds before he's getting taken out. And originally I want a picture of Sarlacc swinging at a couple of, say, skeletons in front, and then maybe some more ready, just about to land on his back. But I wanted to have a calm demeanor to him. He drew this, and I said, shut up and take my money. It's not what I wanted, but I want it now. Because it shows something very severe, which he's accomplished. But the look on his face, he doesn't look distraught or he doesn't look tired. It looks like this is a regular Tuesday for me. And yeah, I thought it turned out very nice. But again, Dan Kemp, you were mentioning the coloring. He colored that, and Harv, who drew it, he said he was very impressed by the coloring. He's never worked with, those two have never worked together, so it was just really cool to see them, to see their talents complement each other.
You can tell this is a piece of art that does not do it justice on the screen. You can just tell that straight away. Like, it would be so much more impactful and better seeing it Yeah, that looked amazing, man. While we're on that subject, let's take a look at this trailer. All right, so the share screens just say Facebook, and we've got 2 of those. So let's see if I pick the right one. Okay, no. Let's share this one for now anyway.
This is the trailer. This is the trailer.
Oh, it is the trailer. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Before we do that, then let's go back to this screen. So this is bigger.
I lied. This isn't the trailer. That's all good, though.
Oh.
No way, man.
You could save many lives here.
I'd rather die. Oi!
Death is a privilege, which you will not be getting today.
Are you crazy? Go for a walk.
I can't heal everything our large friend is about to deal out to you. You can either talk to our dwarven friend here, or you can talk to me.
The dwarf! The dwarf!
That was really cool, man.
That was actually the scene, of course. That wasn't the trailer. I didn't realize till after. I eat my words, but they were delicious. One of my favorite scenes, or one of my favorite scenes, is that one there. I liked the reveal of Chazgo's true form in that. Chazgo is actually a rare form of elf known as an Arger, and Argers they live and dwell in a mountain range that is predominantly like riddled with silver deposits, and because of the generational exposure to silver, their skin is blue. This is in real life with humans. If they ingest enough silver, it actually tattoos their skin and they start looking blue. I know there was one fellow on Oprah who was interviewed because he really believed that drinking water with, I believe it's alkaline silver, I think it's called, he felt it was good for his health. And I know silver has some really crazy attributes in it, in being resistant to bonding with other elements and stuff. But he drank so much of it, he looks like a Smurf. But anyways, Chazgo's people, his Argers, they have a very similar byproduct. They have that dark blue skin, like you saw that there. And being medieval fantasy, all of that silver in their veins, it also makes them highly resistant to magic. His people would be classed as what one would call xenophobic. They want nothing to do with outsiders.
Yeah.
And he figures his culture, his people, are very, very dysfunctional. So eventually he was approached by a being known as Annette, and she was able to provide magical gifts to him, which is very uncommon. Argers consider magic an abomination. Argers like pretty much worship the mountain range that they live in, and they think worshiping the mountain gives them like immunities to or resistance to magic, but in reality it's just the silver that they've been exposed to. Much like how the symbiote was able to bypass Peter Parker's spider sense in the original Secret Wars, Annette was able to bypass the silver and allow him to have a few magical gifts in him. One of them is hiding his appearance. Outside of Arger territory, many people are terrified of his kind. So this is why he keeps himself covered. And as you saw in that breakdown, just looking at him was scary enough. Like, I don't know what this guy's going to do. This is a type of elf that like mages and mercenaries steer clear of that area because it's it's just not worth the fight, kind of thing.
You've put a lot of thought into this. It's very impressive.
Thank you. Again, most of this is based off of years of lore and establishing it. I'm sure both of you have binge watched a TV show more than one time, and you can remember specific episodes in earlier seasons. And that's kind of what it feels like to me. So you worded as thought, and I'm not saying you're wrong, but it feels more like I just remember, like it happened. That's the best way to put it. But yes, there
I
was
think
a
you're
lot
being
of
too
thought in it
humble.
too. Say again.
I think you're being too humble. I think you're being too humble, and you should have just taken the compliment and been like, "Yeah, man, I'm the best." I'm just
One thing I definitely I never turn down a compliment, but I also like to establish the reality of what the compliment's based off of, as opposed to "I am your hero" kind of attitude.
fair enough. Let's take a look at that trailer now. Boom. And we kick ourselves back up here. And let's rock.
There we go.
A brawny intellectual, a devout farmer, a good-hearted charlatan, and a social facilitator. This circle of friends shall reunite in their hometown, Ivywood. Before they can depart for employment, they are interrupted by a local drug problem which carries hidden, sinister undertones. Can they survive the night? And what is the source of this danger? The bond amongst these friends may be the only metric to answer such questions.
That was really cool.
Although it's a trailer for the first issue,
Where do you
it
get
does
your
apply to all three.
Yeah.
You were
Yeah.
saying?
Where do you get your voice actors from? Are they friends
Well-
or professionals?
Through network and experience. I've played D&D with professional voice actors in California. The one you just saw there, that's Brooke Eiler. You can find her on Instagram. I believe her tag is Brooke Smart. And you can also the breakdown of the scene of the interrogation. All of those voices was one person. You can look him
Ooh.
up. His name is K-Bo Foster. Bo is spelled B-E-A-U, just like yourself, Bo.
Of course
K-Bo
it is.
Foster. It's the only way. I have a bow tie, but I spell it B-E-A-U. But I was, again, it's talent, and you ask, they say yes. Life is good, and sometimes you get no. It just wasn't meant to be. Move on to the next, and here I am. I'm really, really happy that I've gotten to the second issue. People, I was able to portray it in enough of a way where people are thinking, yes, I like what I'm seeing. I'm happy with the results. Let's keep going with it.
Well, touching on the point of talent, so where the Madcaps are a four-man team, I noticed in the credits, your team also consists of for yourself, Evan, Queering, Dan Kemp, and Michael Myers. How did that team come about? What was the impetus?
That's a solid question. So, because I had a little bit of knowledge of how a comic book works, from courses I've taken and drawing my own as a kid and stuff, the first thing I needed was a pencil and potentially an inker in one go. Your line man, basically. And so I reached out to Evan Quiring. He actually lives here in Winnipeg as well. He has his own book series you can look up, Lucha Mysteries, also Murder City Devil, which is a modern take on if Spring-Heel Jack was an anti-hero fighting other cryptids like Mothman and other things. That's really cool. Shout out to Evan Quiring, of course. Again, I'm looking to do this. Is this something you think you'd be willing to do? And he says, yeah, I'm in. Great. He had an opening. I took him on. And then after that, I needed a colorist. I found Dan Kemp online through social media. And Dan Kemp, I mentioned his talent with coloring Spawn and all those issues. He also colored like Spider-Man, very close to the original Civil War era. He colored like Marvel Knights Daredevil in the early 2000s. Like, the man's got a lot of experience. And I spoke to him once via webcam, and I was flattered that he took a chance on me. And it was really cool when you speak to somebody of that level of experience and you find out they're a human being. Most people, when you start becoming a fan of something, you make them up to be like demigods or deities, these gifts from God, basically. And he just speaks to you like a normal person. I thought that was really, really cool. So it was really nice to, from Evan to Dan, and then Michael as well, who did all the lettering, the same thing. It was just nice to talk to these regular people. They were pretty darn easy to work with. This, as I already said, this was my first time on the creative side of a comic. So for me, I wanted to write out this, make sure that's not me getting a text, but it is not. I wanted to make sure that my script, the person making the panels, in this case, Evan, could work. So I had this tough balance. I didn't want to sound like I was over controlling. But with that said, I made a suggestion of what each page should look like via whiteboard and taking pictures. But I drew it like stickmen. So, and then on the flip side, I disclaimed. I said, you've been playing this game a lot longer than me. If you feel 2 panels would look better as one, or this perspective would look better like this, go for it. I trust your instincts. Of course, I'll have a look at it before you start inking. And it was just an overall really cool experience to work with everybody on that team.
How did it feel as a writer? How did it feel as a writer, putting yourself out there and then seeing that come into fruition?
Do you mean in specific getting the feedback, or just the overall experience getting to the finish line?
I meant like the artist comes back to you with the panels after you've already worked out. You know what I mean? And it's like,
yes,
I can imagine that must be pretty exhilarating.
Oh, absolutely. So I already showed the image of Harv Salteras. That man has passively had an influence on my childhood. So I read his stuff. And now that talent, which I had exposure to all this time, he drew something that I created. That was I've said this on another podcast before. This is the equivalent of having someone like Elvis Presley sing a song that you've written. And that's the best way I can describe that you're trying to get out there. Very cool experience. Absolutely.
Am I safe then to assume that the whole team will see this whole series through?
So mostly, yes. I do have a new interior artist just because of scheduling. Evan's got other things on the go. And as I mentioned before, the first book took 2 years because I'm an up-and-comer, so I'm not top priority. And I don't mean that in complaint. I just make sure I'm very patient with this. So in this time around, Victor Medina is doing the interiors. The most torturous thing is not being able to share all of this yet. Oh man, I have 3 covers, 3 of 5 covers already done. I have Victor on the interiors, and everything is fleshing out very nicely. And one of them, I just got the final product today, and it is just the coolest thing. It's not spoiling anything, but my other artist who is making this cover, I wanted to focus in on something new revealed in issue 2. So he actually has a pet, so you get to see the pet in the cover. So I wanted that to be kind of a focus. Each cover, I wanted to have some type of relevance. There are a lot of comic franchises, be it indie or professional. One comic could have like 24 different covers. I'm not saying that's bad. I'm just saying that's not me. And if I am going to have alternative covers, I want them to have some relevance to what's going on in the story of that issue.
I love that.
Fair enough, because sometimes we see covers that has got nothing to do with the interiors. It's just for the flashy cover art.
Well, I mentioned Ghost Rider already. The first time that version of Ghost Rider, he meets up with X Factor, which was the original X-Men at that time thrown in. They were no longer X-Men. And on the cover, it shows like Beast has Ghost Rider in a headlock while Ghost Rider's driving his cycle, Iceman in his classic I'm on my ice bridge, Jean Grey and Cyclops taken back at what's going on. And then in the background, you see Archangel flying through. And Warring Worthington just became Archangel. But in the book, Archangel is not in it. And to me, I'm not complaining. I'm not saying that's bad. I just want to make sure that I don't have any flavored false advertising on the cover.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
So 2 questions. One, if, and I'm sure with it being 3 issues, it's all going to be positive, and it's going to be a very great experience, and you're going to be very, very happy with what how it ends. However, what are your plans upon that success for these Madcaps moving forward? And I'll hit you up with the next question in a little bit.
Okay. So first and foremost, just like when you were asking, am I going to make this a collection or a trade paperback after all 3 issues are released? Much like that, where I go after the fact is not considered yet. It's not off the table. I'm definitely open to it. There's many variables to consider there, including, am I getting good overall feedback from the fans? Or is this considered, pardon me, I have the hiccups, financial scheduling? I've got a full-time day job, and I have 3 kids under the age of 10. So there are many things of life that they're not in the way, they're just priority. So after these 3 issues, like I said, it feels like the world exists before this miniseries. It will definitely feel like the world will continue on after. But right now, my focus is not on that. My focus right now is issue 2 and nothing more.
Okay, that's fair. I guess that mostly answers the next one. I was going to ask, seeing as this was your passion project and something that you wanted to do, you've made it successful. Is there anything else that you want to make, but you're not focusing on for a long time?
Yes. I actually am. I've taken on a co-writer, and I'm writing. It's a single issue. It'll be giant sized, but unfortunately, I can't say anything else to that. How's that for a non-answer? I do have something on the back burner, though. Yes. One thing that I really love about the indie experience is how supportive the rest of the community is in any genre. It doesn't matter whether it's comics or YouTube celebrities or you name it. You're always going to have 1 or 2 people that have some type of insignificant drama. But overall, I haven't had any type of squabbles, just overwhelming support. And not like fake support, like actual encouragement. People actually do appreciate these little wins. And it's just a really, really nice feeling. I'm definitely enjoying this overall. One thing I do to contribute to the indie community is I have I review other indie comics. I'm just about to release my 26th one. I've been doing it for just over a year. And one of my first ones, you guys know Sorab Del Rio?
Yep.
So he does Baza the Bogan Barbarian. I did the one. I did the one of he has a couple of different ones about that character. I did the one of Vampires and Vegemite. I love that book. That was just great. I like his cricket bat. He's wearing his rugby shirt, and everybody's just like it. It plays up stereotypes without playing up stereotypes. I don't know how else to explain that. Yeah, I big fan of that book. That was a good read.
Yeah, he's a good guy. Sharif.
No, I guess that's all the questions.
Oh, okay. I thought you had something. Okay, let's get to some personal ones here. Favorite superhero?
Favorite superhero? I've always liked Matt Murdock. I like his idea of I do not have a although he has superhero or rather, although he has superpowers, they're street level, as they say. They're not, he can't punch through a planet or something ridiculous like that. And I really like the idea of, I'm going to do my job upholding the law, but at nighttime, sometimes there's people that know loopholes, and I can help deter that a bit. I always liked that idea. There's many heroes. I've been getting a lot into Mark Grayson and Invincible. I really like the idea of that first season. I didn't read the comics when it came out, but I've read the season. Now I want to go back and read all these comics. That first season I thought was just dynamite. I think the most impressive thing about that story, there's nothing new in regards to superheroes. It's all been done. It has what makes it so great is the story, not the characters' powers, but the characters themselves. And that, for me, that was very refreshing. I'm not relying on, well, Peter Parker shoots webs. What should we do now? Should we dive deeper into Peter's character, or let's get 50,000 Spider-Men to all shoot webs? It's focused on the powers, in my opinion, at that point. Where Invincible, well, I want to be like my dad. My dad is a terrible person. Now what do? I really like that type of exploration of a character. What do you do when you find out your foundation, your goals, your examples? Suddenly take that all away. What are you? And that's a really cool piece of character development. Another one, man, there's a lot of good ones, but Daredevil, Mark
I would have
Grayson.
thought it'd be Thor.
Say again?
I thought it would have been Thor.
Thor, based off of how Madrakis looks. I do enjoy Thor, and you know what? That very first movie is a good reflection of the same thing with Invincible. I want to make my father proud, and you have two brothers. They're stepbrothers, mind you, but they're two brothers that, I guess, not stepbrother. One's adopted, technically, son of Loki, but they both reflect differently towards their father, and they both want his approval, but through different means. I like the idea of Thor, like, I'm the best, I'm the man. I'm obviously too arrogant, and I get humbled by being made mortal and thrown out of Asgard. And then on Loki's side, well, these are all problems. Look, Dad, I'm going to fix all your problems. In a sociopathic way, mind you, but it's very interesting to see those play out. I really like story. I like story when it's about people and the focus. Have you ever seen 2002? There's a movie with M. Night Shyamalan called Signs. It's about Mel Gibson out in a farm with aliens and stuff. I really like the visual at the end. There's obviously lots of plot holes in that movie, but the delivery is so good. I was 18 when that came out. I saw it in theater. My stomach was in a knot that entire time, and the only time that knot actually relaxed was when Meryl grabs the bat off the wall, and I started to relax. But the rest of that scene, sure, Meryl's beating up the threat, but that's not the focus. The focus is on Mel Gibson trying to keep his son alive, and him thinking, okay, there is no coincidence. He had the asthma attack to protect his lungs from that spray. And you're right there rooting, is this needle of epinephrine going to open this kid's lungs up again? Meanwhile, in the background, Meryl's just like spraying the alien with like water and beating the snot out of it with a baseball bat. The action's there, but the action isn't the focus. I really like it when a movie is able, or a movie or any story rather, can not rely on something to make a story better. In this case, action. And I'll give you an unorthodox example. The first Moana movie, there's a sequel coming out. In that one, the hero and the protagonist were not the same person. And I find that another unique example of something where they're not relying on something to make a good story. So Maui was all that was amazing. He's this demigod, and this girl was entrusted. in regards to physical ability and stuff, there's nothing special about her. But at the end, the monster was actually the person that needed this heart of the sea, and I thought that was a really cool thing. I know I'm kind of tangenting a bit, but going back to favorite superheroes, Daredevil's great. I love Invincible. I've always been a big fan of Dick Grayson. Dick Grayson, Batman's first Robin. I feel he's a better. I think he's a better team leader, where Batman thinks more about sacrifice these pieces to get the win. Dick Grayson thinks about, instead of sacrificing the pawn, get the pawn across the board and turn them into a queen. I really like Dick Grayson a lot as well.
Some say he's a better detective.
Yeah. And he's not as nearly as broken, thanks to Bruce Wayne, of course. But yeah, there's lots of good characters when you look deep enough. Although this one's controversial, I shouldn't say controversial. I like Charles Xavier a lot. The reason I was going to say controversial is he's made a lot of bad decisions, but I always like his thoughts of we have to prove we're not bad guys. We need to prove that we can fit in with humans. We should be doing our part. Every one of us, no matter what group we're part of, are ambassadors and representatives of what we are and the people who we are representing. And he does that specifically with a fictional group, mutants. And I think every human should internalize that.
Man, I think the Krakoa age ruined Professor X for me.
Yeah,
I never had a problem with him. Yeah, but I hated the way he was in that whole saga. I
understand.
Yeah, man. I was waiting. Sorry?
I was just saying, I understand.
Yeah, I was waiting for the reveal at some point in the Krakoa age where it wasn't actually him the whole time and it was somebody else. Because even when they drew him a lot, he looked a little evil at times, Plus the suggestion with the headpiece being like the maker and all this sort of stuff.
Right.
I obviously reading into it too much, but yeah.
I understand. Yeah.
So you're more of a Marvel guy or DC?
I lean more towards Marvel.
Good man.
Yeah, Marvel and DC's great. There's lots of cool things about it, but the one thing about DC that Marvel is starting to make the same error now. It's a double-edged sword, so it was very beneficial for DC. They've rebooted their main universe multiple times, and after a while, we're going to lose a character. That's okay. They'll reboot the universe in 5 years from now anyways, so what does it matter? Marvel... the good thing about that is when things go stale, you have a way to refresh it. Marvel kept its universe the same for the longest time, excluding the last Secret Wars where all the universes combined. I've always felt more attached to Marvel because at any time I pick up a book about Peter Parker, it's the same Peter Parker from the original issue in Amazing Fantasy 15, where now with the multiverse, you lose a spider character. Does it really matter? Because there's a cajillion more, And I kind of feel that way sort of about DC because they just keep rebooting their main universe.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. All right. Have you got anything else for our esteemed guest, Sharif?
No.
Ray, is there anything else that you want to talk about?
You know what? The only other thing I have to add to the Madcaps, we've been talking about it for an hour now, is as I've already said, that pre-launch page. If you can hit follow on that, it's gonna help in spades.
Yeah. Okay, right here. We will put this in the description of the video as well. As soon as we stop recording, I'll update the description. But yeah, man, go check it out. And I've got to be honest with you, Ray. Sometimes you're obligated to read a book because you're going to have somebody on your show. Not that it's happened that much, but it can. And I'm happy to say that, let's say for argument's sake, 9 out of 10 times I've enjoyed, personally, people's work that come on the show. It's very rare that I don't. and Madcaps has followed that. When I read it purely because you were coming on the show, and I wanted to get my knowledge and research, and I'm really, really happy because I really enjoyed it. It was way better than I thought it was going to be, and that's not a dig on you at all. That's just towards my cynicism, because I do say that quite often when with other people when I read their books. I don't know why, but I think maybe because my talents aren't that great when it comes to creative process, I assume that everybody else's first attempts are not going to be that great either. And it's a pleasant surprise opening up a book and going, wow, like not only does this look really cool and professional, but it's actually a really good story. And I actually want to read more of this. So I want to say thank you to you for reaching out, being on the show. Thank you for sharing the book. I will definitely be picking up the second one. Can I buy the first one with the second one? Oh, I think you muted yourself. Hang on.
Ray, your audio is not coming through. Nothing yet?
Sharif, can you please play some solo music?
Elevator music?
No, still no sound, right?
Not yet.
I think you just didn't want to answer the question. This is all like some sort of elaborate ruse. KJB.
Hey.
What are you doing today, Sharif? Got plans? Guess what I'm doing today?
Yeah, I do have plans. The kids, not yet, Ray. Not yet.
We'll give you the thumbs up when we do here. Nope. Maybe log back out and back in. I'm seeing Venom today, Sharif.
That's gonna be the best Saturday. Now my kids just was having a oh dude. Nice. Wait, is that your first Godzilla?
Yeah, but it's the Marvel Years one, remember?
Yeah. No, I mean that there've been other Godzilla hardcovers like the what's his name? James Stocko?
Nah, man, I bought this one because it's Marvel. Of course I did. Godzilla and the Fantastic Four, Godzilla and the Avengers. Come on. Oh, dude.
Not yet,
I've lost
Ray.
you, man.
I did notice the light on your mic headset isn't on. I don't know if that's why. Yeah.
Okay, if it doesn't work soon, Ray, we're going to play an awesome game of charades. Okay, we can do this. We will get your outro. Don't worry about it. It's going to work it out. James, I am going to watch Venom on Saturday also. James, I cannot wait to hear what you think about it. I've already heard non-spoiler reviews from what I like to think is trustworthy sources. So I'm expecting it to be better than the second one. Oh, now you're muted.
Yes.
Hey!
All right. For some reason, the mic turned off.
I don't remember what I asked you
now. We can replay it after we're done streaming. You were talking about how you were pleasantly surprised when you were reading it.
Yeah, and I was just thanking you for reaching out. Thank you for sharing the book. I'll be getting the second one. And that's right. That's what I asked you. Can you buy the first one with the second one?
Yes. So this pre-launch page for issue 2, you will have the option to buy issue 1. And there's some cool things I'm going to be adding on there. In issue 1's Kickstarter, I had a couple of different things. I can actually show you one of the prints that you can actually buy. This one I will share. This one I will be selling again on this second pre-launch. Share screen. Share window. This is drawn by Sean Langley and, of course, colored, of course, by Dan Kemp. Whoops, that is a variant cover. Let's go back to this first. So this is all 4 of them, kind of an interpretation loosely of what happened in the first issue. Even though you could see Chasgo is in the mix, we just did that for fun. But I really like how Dan added focus to the center by making all of the undead more or less of the same color palette. And that way the ones in the middle really stand out. This print will be for sale. And I will share. There's all the variant covers. Did you guys ever play NES back in the day? Nintendo, the original.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you know Shinobi, the game? It's basically you're like
that is
ninjas. So this is
that
Madcaps.
is something I've not thought about in a long, long time.
So this image here was painted by the guy that made the cover art for Shinobi. And that's hand painted there. That's not digital. That was by hand. I am going to be getting that. I will be getting that painting soon, and it'll be hanging up in my office.
Wow, that's cool.
But yeah, but you will be able to pick up. I believe you'll be able to pick up every variant cover as you will from issue 1, but this print will be available. Also, a print of, I have a map of the area that this whole story takes place in. That was for issue 1. It'll be available in issue 2 again. I got a couple other tidbits going on, some things to consider. It's my first time with a Kickstarter and a comic book combined, so what add-ons work, what add-ons do not. There's a whole game. I don't want to say the game, but there's you got to understand the lay of the land and figure out how everything works in that respect. Where not to waste your money. Absolutely. The best way to put it. You want character
Cliff
sheets?
Says he wants character sheets.
You know what? Yes, that is definitely going to be an option. I'm probably going to make them level 3 characters. Maybe 5, probably 3, just so you have a feel. I don't want to make them again. I don't want to make them demigods or anything like that. I want them to have some vulnerability. You're more inclined to hide behind each other or work with each other, I should say, as opposed to I'm going to kill more people than you are. No, I'm going to kill more people than you are. We're awesome. But yeah, I like the idea of character sheets. That's a great idea. I believe that was Cliff who said that.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Cliff. Thank you for bringing that up. I believe we're going to be making that happen.
Have you seen Cliff on comics?
I've seen him briefly on one of your previous podcasts. He was talking about being with all of his Aussie friends, as he put it. Gave me a chuckle.
You should go on his show also and talk about it, because he is a ball of energy. And
Cliff, I would definitely
definitely
be interested in going on. Send me a message on Facebook. I definitely would love to go on. Absolutely.
Fantastic. Sweet. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is the end of the show now. Before we do go, Ray, I want to see if you have been paying attention to AussieVerse, because a lot of people say they do, but they don't. They get this answer wrong. So if you do, don't worry. Don't be embarrassed. It is just the way it is.
I've only seen one episode.
To you, then you're probably going to get this wrong. If I said to you, what is AussieVerse? What would your answer be?
AussieVerse? I'm going to... My guess, an educated guess, is it's about the 3 people combined and their talk show. And if I'm wrong, my next guess would be the 3 people who host the show combined and their own comic series. That's my guess. And I'm openly saying it's a guess.
No, Yeah. No, that's a good answer. I don't mind that. But you're wrong. That's right. AussieVerse is and always will be for life. And before we go, let's check out the last two comments here. We have Nathan, character sheets, the one of dice rolls, not setting every stats to max. Cliff on comics, December bookings, Ray. Cliff, I expect at least, $20 from you for this hookup, which is great for me because $20 from you is probably about 50 American. So thank you very much. And Cliff, that is right. That is the right answer. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to be cool like Ray, if you want to come onto AussieVerse, please go check out our link tree where you can see all of our socials. You can come onto the show. We don't care where you are. We don't care what you do. As long as it's positive and you're on planet Earth, join AussieVerse because it is not, as Ray can show you.
May I give you one more shout out? My publisher, Philbo Publishing, Philip Russert in New York. They took a chance on me, and I wouldn't be doing this right now if it wasn't for him. I should have gave that out, but apologies for, I'm doing the Canadian thing and apologizing for cutting you off there, but I had to make sure I got that in there. Shout out to Philbo Publishing. They have some really cool stuff on there. If you look up Arcane Syndicate, you can watch a comic which is literally the combination of League of Extraordinary Gentlemen and the Monster Squad from the 80s, where classic horror monsters are all their own super team. It is a love letter to the old Universal Studio monsters, but put in a contemporary time with a twist, but it is done with love and adoration to the old stuff. That's all I have to say.
Wow. Okay.
On Kickstarter now until November 1st.
That sounds awesome, actually. Okay, sorry, I've got to ask this question because you're from Canada. They do produce the best wrestlers in the entire world. Who's your favorite wrestler, if you have one?
Okay, well, I'll give you a very unorthodox answer. His name is Daniel Agali. He was the first Canadian, and I know you're talking about pro wrestling, but he was the first Canadian in history to win Olympic gold in freestyle wrestling, Sydney, Australia, 2000.
Okay, I was not expecting that. I was expecting Bret Hart, Edge, Jericho. No.
When I was in high school, I did a lot of amateur wrestling, and I just really liked the sport. I was in high school from the late 90s to the early 2000s, so right in the middle of that, I watched Daniel Agali win right in Sydney there. It was a really, really cool experience for me to witness that, and very relevant because it was in Australia. There's a Canadian and Australian answer.
Cliff's got a question for you as well. Where do you find this?
Where do I find House on Facebook? Find those. Are you talking Arcane Syndicate, or are you talking about my book?
Come on, Cliff. Use those.
Maybe
fingers,
he meant.
mate.
I'm thinking THOSE or. If you're talking Philbo, look up Philip Russert. If you're talking about Arcane Syndicate, I actually reviewed it.
Oh,
so
find you on Facebook.
Oh, how do you find me? DM Ray, as it shows. Find DM Ray on Facebook, and my picture is actually a photo of the Madcaps issue 1, and I will look up Cliff on Comics after this if you can't find me. But I also did a review of there I am there. That's me. There you could see a chain golem fighting a pit fiend in a D&D game. And that is my profile picture there. DM Ray. And also, when you're on that profile, look up videos, and you can see I reviewed issue 1 for Arcane Syndicate. I've read all that very first top left one. Obviously, it takes a bit. I don't want to eat up everybody's time here. But okay, you're watching it. Let's do it.
This is DM Ray with another indie review. Remember to support indie comics. In this review, we will be focusing on Arcane Syndicate, issue 1 from Philip Russert of Philbo Publishing. And boy, am I excited to talk about this one. Philip Russert has graced me with the script of the first 5 issues, and it is a shame that I can only speak about the first issue here. To keep from spoiling the issue, I will only be talking about 2 scenes. Let's get right into it. Imagine, if you will, an intelligent man who is the descendant of Dr. Frankenstein, with the foul news of cancer revealed to him. Imagine knowing traditional treatments will not cure him and having to rely on another, unorthodox option. This fast forwards us 10 years later into the present day, where Dr. Frankenstein is now in the body of Frankenstein's monster, fighting alongside very familiar looking monsters. A werewolf, a vampire, the Gill Man, a mummy, and the Invisible Man. This team of monsters is fighting off a swarm of gargoyles while they banter amongst each other. Eventually, their final teammate shows up, the Phantom of the Opera. Using a personal keyboard, the Phantom begins to cast a spell by playing music. All of the gargoyles are pulled back into their portal, and this portal is closed. To summarize this story, it consists of a group of monsters who work for the government, which pacify paranormal threats. It's like giving the feel of the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen and combining it with the Monster Squad. This story has a lot of layers going on, with one of my favorites being about 3 different Draculas, all claiming to be the one true vampire lord. This first issue is currently on Kickstarter until the end of the month, and if you are in the Halloween spirit, this book is definitely for you. Familiar classic monsters with a fresh perspective. Show Philip Russert some love and back this book, because these first 5 issues are dynamite. Cheers.
Wow, that was really cool, man. I really dug that.
One of the coolest things one of the story arcs I'm really liking, those 3 vampire lords, they're all reflective of different mythologies of Dracula. First one is the Bela Lugosi, the classic Dracula that everybody thinks of, the Transylvania.
Yeah.
There's the other one, which is of the original movie, that Nosferatu, more primitive and monster-like. And then there's the militant medieval style vampire that's it's like a direct reflection of Vlad the Impaler, and they're all like, we're going to take out the other 2 imposters, and they all have their own little schemes that they're building up. It's a well put together story. I very much enjoyed reading it, and as you can tell, I enjoyed reading it. But yeah, definitely shout out to Phil Russell. You guys, if you're watching this, that one goes on. The last day you can book it is Halloween. Obviously, Phil was smart to release it in October for the Kickstarter, but you'll definitely get your money's worth with that one. That goes without saying.
Yeah, I've just gone and backed it right now.
Thanks, man. That's really good.
No, that was really cool. I really dug that a lot.
Yeah, it's solid.
Okay.
But anyway,
we've got a little delay here.
We'll stutter.
All right.
Stutter.
Is there anything else you want to talk about before we go, Ray? Anything else you want to promote? Anyone you want to say hi to? Maybe you just want some screen time and take over.
Hi, everybody. It's just me. I be the captain now, as they say. But if you like medieval fantasy, if you like stories where there's actual gravity to decisions, if you want to actually find out if people will survive the end of the night, then it is the Halloween season. If you like monsters, it's definitely got it in there. Follow my pre-launch, Madcaps issue 2. It's coming out in the new year, probably a couple of months into the new year, and I guarantee you by issue 3, as they say in volleyball, bump, set, and spike. Issue 3, it spikes, and it spikes hard, and I guarantee you there's a lot of good payoff that you'll definitely appreciate.
Awesome. That was a good sales pitch. I like that. I like that a
Thanks,
lot.
man.
Thank you, Ray. Thank you so much for joining, man. It was really an honor. Anytime you want
pleasure.
to come back on,
For sure.
anytime, mate, please hit us
Right
up.
on.
We will definitely
Thank you
do this.
very much.
You're very welcome. We'll see you next time, ladies and gentlemen, for our FOC video on Wednesday. As you know, that is every single week. What's on Friday next week? Who the F knows, but we'll work something out. You have a great weekend. We'll catch you then, and go see Venom, because why not? It's got to be better than the second one, right? It's got to be. Okay, catch you later.